chat said. The emergency beacon had gone silent 3 hours ago. Vaughn loped through the crystalline forests of Thorosa with lethal purpose, his war pack flowing behind him like a river of shadow and sinew. Bioluminescent vines pulsed underfoot, casting cold light on midnight fur and gleaming claws. The Kathri were apex predators on 17 worlds, their reputation carved in claw and fang across the outer rim. When one of their own fell silent, vengeance was not a strategy. It was instinct. The human settlement appeared through the trees like a wound in the wilderness. Prefabricated structures, crude by galactic standards, huddled around a central clearing. Metal walkways, exposed wiring, dull sodium lamps, everything about it was angular, artificial. Wrong against the graceful growth of Thorosa's crystalline flora. Vin's lips curled back, revealing rows of serrated teeth. Humans, the galaxy's newest rivals. Barely a century past their first successful faster-than-light flight, and already spreading across unclaimed systems like a resilient fungus. 3 of his pack were missing, 3 cubs barely past their first molt, sent on a proving hunt into these very woods. Their last transmission had been a mess of static and panic, broken shrieks, weapons fire, then nothing. The pack had tracked their scent straight here, to this human nest. Surround the perimeter, Vaughn growled, his voice a subsonic rumble that vibrated in the ribs of his warriors. Leave none alive. They moved at once. 12 Kathri warfighters fanning out with practiced precision. Each stood nearly 3 meters tall, bodies a lattice of corded muscle beneath velvet dark fur. Their claws could shear starship bulkheads. Their jaws could punch through combat armor. A settlement this small, Vaughn thought, wouldn't last 5 minutes. His tactical display flickered to life over one eye, highlighting heat signatures in the largest structure at the settlement's center. 23 humans clustered together, defensive positioning, weapons powered. They knew the pack was coming. Good, Vaughn thought. Let them taste fear before the end. He raised one massive paw to signal the attack and stopped. A scent drifted to him on the night wind, faint but unmistakable. His heart lurched. Cubs, his cubs. Vin's eyes flared with bioluminescent amber, pupils narrowing to slits. The scent was close, very close, alive. His raised paw curled into a fist, and he held it aloft. The signal to halt. The pack froze instantly, confusion rippling through them, but discipline held. They waited. Following the scent trail, Vaughn strode alone toward the central dwelling. Each step was deliberate, claws half extended, senses sharpened to needle points. The door stood half open, warm yellow light spilling into the alien night. Within, he heard breathing human, slow and steady, and beneath it, softer sounds, the high, trilling chirps of sleeping Kathri young. His chest tightened. Vaughn ducked inside, shoulders scraping the doorframe. The interior smelled of metal, plastics, recycled air, and human sweat. Furniture cluttered the room, mismatched chairs, a narrow cot. A low table cluttered with data tablets and tools. Clothing hung from hooks on the wall. Everything felt too small, too fragile beneath his bulk. In the center of the room sat a human male in a worn chair. He did not reach for a weapon. He did not flee. He simply watched. On his chest, Curled into a warm, tangled heap of dark fur and tiny claws, slept 3 Kathri cubs. Von went rigid, his mind stumbling over the sight. His children Rika, then, and little Mira rose and fell gently with each of the humans' breaths. Mira's bandaged hind leg rested carefully atop his arm, then was drooling on the human's shirt. Rika's tail twitched with whatever hunt played out in his dreams. They were scared, the human said quietly, voice rough with exhaustion. Found them caught in a hunter's trap about 6 clicks west of here. Old trap, not ours. Probably left by the initial survey team. Vin's gaze snapped to Mira's leg. The bandages were clean and precise. The scent of human medical compounds curled around her injury sharp, sterile, but not harmful. She cried for hours. The human continued, making no sudden movements. Wouldn't let me near her at first. Her brothers stood between us, trying to look fierce, even though they barely reached my knee. A fleeting smile touched his lined face. Brave little things. Reminded me of my daughter at that age. Vin's claws extended involuntarily, scraping grooves into the floor. The noise made Vin's ears twitch, but the cub didn't wake. The human's gaze flicked to the gouge, then back to Vin's face. He still didn't flinch. I sent out a signal, the man said, nodding toward a console on the table. Universal distress beacon, broadcasting on every frequency I could match to Kathri protocols. The trap scrambled their translator implants. Took me for hours to rig up something they could understand. Basic pictographs, mostly food, safety, help coming soon. Understanding snapped into place. The garbled transmission the pack had received hadn't been an attack. It had been this human clumsily trying to speak Kathri. They ate. The human went on, gesturing weakly to the empty food containers scattered across the room. Everything I had that wasn't toxic to their biology, according to the colony's Zenobia files. Mostly raw meat. Cleaned out my entire freezer. He adjusted his shoulders carefully so as not to disturb the cubs. Then the little one started crying again. Pain, I think. So I sat down, and she climbed up here. He glanced down at Mira with a tenderness that made something twist in Vin's chest. The boys followed. They've been asleep for about an hour now. I didn't want to move and wake them. Von studied the human anew. 50 standard years by human count, perhaps. Weathered face, hair streaked with gray. Clothes worn from physical labor. His hands, resting protectively on either side of the sleeping cubs, bore the thick calluses of a worker, not a soldier. And his eyes, those strange human eyes, with their 2 bright whites, held no fear, only exhaustion. And something else, compassion. The rest of your pack is outside, the human said matter-of-factly. I know. My sensors saw them 10 minutes ago. You came for your children. He gave a small nod. I understand that. He met Vin's gaze directly. Among the Kathri, such a look would be a challenge. From this human, it carried only frank honesty. I have a daughter, he said softly. Had. She's grown now. Off-world with her own family. But I remember what it was like when she was small. When every sound in the dark might mean danger. And all that stood between her and the universe was me. Von stood motionless, instincts tearing at him from all sides. Humans were chaos incarnate, the species that had sparked 3 border conflicts in a single decade. The species the Galactic Council warned was too aggressive, too unstable, too dangerous to fully trust. And yet this one had found his cubs in a trap, had freed them, had tended Mira's wounds, fed them, and then sat unmoving for hours just so 3 alien children could sleep. Slowly, carefully, Vaughn lowered himself to the floor. The deck creaked under his mass as he folded his legs beneath him. The movement stirred Riker. The young male blinked awake, pupils wide. When he saw his father, his face split into a delighted chirp. "Father!" The other cubs jerked awake and tumbled from Elias's chest in a mad scramble of paws and tails. They crushed into Van's torso, climbing, clinging, filling the room with breathless squeaks. The terror of 17 worlds let himself be bowled over, wrapping his arms around them as their joy washed over him like a tide. The human Elias core, Vaughn saw on a nearby ID tag, rose slowly to his feet. Grimacing as blood returned to his legs, he shuffled back a step, giving the reunited family space. Vaughn checked each cub with a frantic, gentle thoroughness. Mira's leg was cleanly set and wrapped. Riker and then stank of fear and exhaustion, but bore no injuries. All 3 lived. All 3 were whole. Because of the human, Vaughn stood at last, his cubs clinging to his fur. He turned to face Elias, and for a long moment, the two simply regarded one another across the gulf of species and history. Then Vaughn did something no Kathri Alpha had ever done before a human. He bowed his head. "You have my gratitude," he rumbled, his translator collar flattening the rich growl of his native tongue into blunt human standard. "And my oath. The pack owes you a life debt, Elias Core, should you or yours ever have need. Speak my name to the wind, and the Kathri will answer." Surprise flickered across Elias's tired face. Then he nodded. "Just glad they're okay," he said. "They're good kids. You raised them well." Outside, the pack waited in taut silence. When Vaughn emerged with his cubs pressed close, the warrior's claws flexed on reflex, prepared to see wounds, trauma, outrage. Instead they saw Mira's careful bandages, the cubs' relaxed postures, the trust radiating from their eyes. Understanding rippled through them, slow but sure. Vaughn turned back once more. Elias stood in his doorway, framed by warm light against the alien dark. The human raised one hand in farewell. No threat, no plea, just a simple goodbye. Vaughn lifted his own clawed hand, echoing the gesture with a Kathri equivalent. For the first time, it did not feel strange. Then he led his pack back into the crystalline forest, his cubs chattering over each other to tell the story of the strange, kind human who had saved them. Behind them, Elias Core closed his door. His legs finally gave out, and he collapsed onto his couch with a groan. Tomorrow, he knew, he'd have to explain to the colony council why a Kathri warpack had surrounded this settlement, and then simply walked away. But that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, he let himself